Hello friends, how are you? Welcome to the Japan Study Center. Today we are going to see the chapter of geography, and what is our topic today? Condensations. There is the most important here. Condensation. The condensation is the process by which the atmospheric water vapor change. Condensation is the process by which the atmospheric water vapor changes into water or ice crystal. There is important change into the water or ice crystal. It is just result of the process of evaporation, and when the temperature of saturated air fall below the dew point, the air cannot be hold the amount of humidity when it was the holding earlier at the higher temperature. This extra amount of humidity changes into the water droplet or crystal or bus depending upon the temperature at which the condensations take place. I repeat again, it is just a reverse of the process of evaporation. When the temperature of saturated air falls below the dew point, the air cannot be hold the amount of humidity which it was the holding earlier at the higher temperature. This extra amount of humidity changes into the water droplet or crystal of ice depending upon the temperature at which the condensation take place. There is a most important, and the next point here, process of condensation. There is a most important point here, process of condensation. The temperature of the air fall into the two way. Firstly, cooling occur around the very small particles of free floating air when it is come in the contact with some colder object. You know that the first point here, cooling to occur around a very small particle of freely floating air when it is come in the contact with some colder object. And the second point here, loss in air temperature take place on the massive scale due to rising of air to hold higher altitude. There is important air point. Second here, loss in air temperature take place on a massive scale due to rising of air to higher altitudes. The condensation take place around the smoke, salt and dust particle which attract water vapor to the condense around them. They are called hydroscopic nuclei. There is important here. The condensation takes place around their smoke, salt and dust particle which attract to the water vapor to the condense around them, and they are called to the hygroscopic nuclei. When the relative humidity of on air is high, when the relative humidity of on air is high, a slight cooling is required to bring the temperature down below the dew point. That is important, below the dew point. But when the relative humidity is low and the temperature of the air is high, but when the relative humidity is low and the temperature of the air high, a lot of cooling of the air will be necessary to the varying the temperature down below the dew point, and thus condensation is directly related to the relative humidity and the rate of cooling. There is an important point here, but important here box a 2 point here the conclusion. The first here, condensation is a process of changing water vapor into the teeny droplet of water or ice crystal. There is important here, condensation is a process of changing water vapor into the tiny droplet of water or ice crystal. And the second point here, condensation takes place when the temperature of air fall below the dew point and is controlled by the relative humidity of the air and rate of cooling. There is an important point. I repeat again. Condensation takes place when the temperature of air falls below the dew point and controlled by the relative humidity of the air and rate of cooling. And the next point here, the point B. The point B is the most important here from a condensation. You know that from the condensation here, condensation take place in a two situation. Firstly, when the dew point is below the freezing point or below the 0 Celsius. You understand? The first here, when the dew point is below the freezing point or below the 0 Celsius, and secondly, when it is above freezing point, when it is above freezing point. In this way, the form of condensation may be classified into two groups. Here, from the condensation may be classified into two groups. First here, first snow and some cloud are formed when the dew point is below freezing point. The first and snow and some cloud are formed when the dew point is below the freezing point. And second here, dew, mist, fog, smoke and some cloud are formed when the dew point is above freezing point. There is a 2 point is the most important here. The form of condensation may be also be classified on the basis of place where it is occurring. For example, on the ground are nature objects such as grass, blades and leaves of the plant or trees. In the air close to the earth as a surface or at the some height in the troposphere is an important point here. And the next here, first point, dew. The dew is the most important here. When the atmospheric moisture is a condensate that is deposited in the form of water droplets on the cooler surface of solid objects such as grass, blades, leaves of plant and tree and the stone. It is a term as a dew. You understand? What is a dew? The condensation of dew from occur when there is a clear sky, little or no winds, high relative humidity and cold long night. This is important here. The condensation of dew from occur when there is a clear sky, little or no winds, high relative humidity and cold long night. And these conditions is lead to the great terrestrial radiation and solid object become cold enough to varying the temperature of air down below dew point. In this process, the extra moisture of the air get a deposit on this object. Dew is formed when the dew point is above freezing point. The dew formation can be seen if their water is poured into a glass from the bottle keep in a refrigerator. Repeat, dew formation can be seen if the water is poured into the glass from a bottle keep in the refrigerator. The water cold surface of the glass bearing the temperature of the air is in contact with the surface down below the dew point and extra moisture get a deposit on the outer wall of the glass. You know that there is a most important experiment here. The outer cold surface of the glass bearing the temperature of air in a contact. The air contact with the surface down below the dew point of extra moisture get a deposit on the outer wall of the glass. And the next here, frost. When the dew point is below the freezing point under above mentioned condition, the condensation of extra moisture take place in the form of every minute and particle of ice crystal. It is called frost. I repeat again, frost when the dew point is below the freezing point. Dew point is below to the freezing point under above mentioned condition. The condition of the extra moisture take place in the form of the every minutes. The particle of ice crystal is called frost. In this process, the air moisture condenses directly in form of the tiny crystal of ice. And this form of condensation is a distresses from a start standing crop such as a potato, pea, pulses, gram, etc. It is also create a problem from a road transport system. It is also create a problems from a road transport system. And the next year, mist and fog. Mist and fog. When the condensations take place in the air near the earth as a surface in the form of teeny droplet of water hanging and floating in the air. It's called mist. What is a mist? When the condensations take place in the air near the earth as a surface in the form of teeny droplet of water hanging and floating in the air, it's called mist. In a mist, visibility in the more than 1 kilometer and less than 2 kilometer. The mist is a visibility of more than 1 kilometer and less than 2 kilometer. But then the visibility is reduced to less than 1 kilometer. It's called fog. You know that? What is a fog? When the visibility is reduced to less than 1 kilometer, it's called fog. The ideal conditions from the formation of the mist and the fog are clear sky, calm and cold winter nights. The next year, smog. Smog is the fog that has been too polluted and discolored by smoke, dust, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide and other fumes. Smog frequently occur in the large cities and industry centers. It is a cause of respiratory illness. I repeat again, smog. Smog is a fog that has been polluted and discolored by the smoke, dust, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide and other fumes. Smog frequently occur in the large cities and industrial centers. It is a case of respiratory illness. And the next point here, fifth, a cloud. The cloud is important here. Cloud are a visible aggregate of water droplet. The cloud are visible aggregate of water droplet. Ice particles are mixture of both along with the varying amount of dust particle. A tropical cloud contains a million of droplets having to the diameter on the r per is a 0.060, 0.012, 0.02 mm. It's a very tiny particle here. Yet the liquid is a solid water amount account for the less than 10 part per million of the cloud volume. The important here, yet liquid are a solid water count for less than 10 parts per million of the cloud volumes. The clouds are generally classified on the basis of their general form or appearance and attitude. Combining both these characteristics, cloud may be grouped as under. The next here, low cloud. The base level of low cloud varies from very near the ground to about 2000 meter. The basis type of this family is the stratus. A low and informal layer is resembling fog but not resting on the ground. The low cloud is most important here. The base level of low cloud varies from very near the ground to about 2000 meter. The basis type of this family is a stratus. A low, informally layered is resembling fog but not resting on the ground. Stratocumulus cloud from a low, grainy layer is composed of globular mass or rolls which are usually arranged in a group, line and the waves. The cloud with the vertically development fall into the two principal. The categories columbus and cumulonimbus. The columbus cloud are the dense, dome shape and have a flat base. And they may be grow to become a columbus. They consist of vertically development depending upon the force of vertically currents below the clouds as well as upon to the amount of the latent heat of condensations elaborate into the cloud as they form. To absorb the directly when a cumulus cloud may be covered to the whole sky and have to the appearance of nimbus structure. There is a wall nimbus is a reflex nimbo applied to a cloud from which rain is falling. Is derived from to the latent form violent rain. The next year, medium cloud. The medium cloud, this is cloud are formed at altitude between to the 2000 to the 6000 meters. And this group cloud is include alto columns as the alto stars. The next year, high cloud. And this cloud are formed above the altitude of 6000 meter and include cirrus, cirrotus and cirrus is seen in their figure. Here show the picture. The cloud types are grouped into family according to the height and form. There is the most important diagram here. Here different types of cloud on form the earth. There is an important diagram for the exam view.